Let's jump into today's topic here. And today's topic is going to be the laws of fiduciary duties, us representing other people. We're going to talk laws of agency. We are going to talk agency agreements. We're going to talk about the relationship between you, the salesperson, and the broker. I'll give you a little bit of tidbits into preparing and getting excited for your real estate businesses. What we're talking about here is 17% of our state exam. Your state exam consists of 150 questions. And the content that we're going to be discussing here is going to cover about 25, 26 questions. So it's a pretty decent chunk of your state exam. So let's talk fiduciary. Fiduciary, it's not a word that I can say fairly easily. Carla, when was the last time you used fiduciary in your language, everyday language with your family?
Never even heard, never.
You're like, fiduciary. A lot of our contracts and paperwork do have the word fiduciary in it, and you're going to be annoyed with the word fiduciary by the end of this morning session. So we're going to talk about truthful relationships, disclosure, material facts. Fiduciary. And if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please someone correct me, but fiduciary is how I'm going to pronounce it. And what is the actual definition? It is a person or organization that acts on behalf of another person or persons, putting their client's interests at heart. Like, isn't this what we do as real estate agents? We are representing buyers, buy property. We are representing sellers, sell property. We're representing tenants, locate property and help them obtain that property. We're helping landlords find tenants to occupy their properties. We real estate agents have a fiduciary duty to our clients. Now, when we talk about the duties to the principal, and by the way, the principal is the client, our responsibilities to our client, we do want to remember an acronym. And as I always say, if there's an acronym involved, it's probably important. And the acronym that we are going to know for this one is old car. Old car, car load, whatever you want to put. Actually, load wouldn't work because there's no A. Oh, car load, actually, no. That's depending on how you spell it. Car load, old car, either one. Let's just remember old car. So old car, the O stands for obedience, obey lawful instructions. We do have an obligation to our principal, our client, to obey what they state, what they want. We have a responsibility to follow their direction, but also follow their instruction, right? But following this instruction doesn't mean that we need to break the law. Not at all. We still have to adhere towards the anti-discrimination and fair housing laws. We follow their direction, but we still have to obey the law as well. So we owe the seller a level of obedience. L stands for loyalty. We got to put their best interests, not our pocketbooks, not our wallets, not the commissions that we earn. We have to put their best interests at heart. We can't put them in a position that compromises their interests, compromises them, puts them at risk. Now, there are times in a real estate transaction where there is risk involved, but we need to express that to our clients and provide them with the pros and cons and the repercussions of their decisions. L is going to stand for loyalty. D is going to stand for disclosure of material facts. There's a lot of things involved in a real estate transaction. There's a lot of things that we could not know as well. But the way that I describe this one is that you have to ask yourself this question. So whatever the fact is, whatever the item is, if a train passes by the house every 15 minutes and there's a loud honking sound, if there's a school across the street and traffic gets really jammed up between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, if there was a recent crime or something that happened on the street or nearby, like if you know it, you have to ask yourself this question: could this information alter the client's decision? If that client knew that every 2:30 to 3 o'clock there was really a lot of traffic, could that change their decision whether or not they want to buy this property? If someone died in the property 2 years ago, could that alter that person's decision whether or not to buy this property. That's the question you got to ask yourself. Disclosure of material facts. So whatever that fact is, we need to disclose it to the client. We need to be honest and upfront and say, hey, this is what we know. What do you want to do? That's what you got to do. So that's disclosure of material facts. Obedience, loyalty, disclosure of material facts. C stands for confidentiality. Keeping the principal's information private unless otherwise instructed. If Carla's selling her property with me and we list her property for 500,000, but Carla says to me in confidence, well, let's try for 500, Ben. And if we can get 450, we'll sell for 450. We really need to sell fast. I can't go around telling Rudy and Eugene, hey, the seller says she'll take 450. Just offer me that. And we can't be secretive about it. Unless Carla says, yeah, tell them I'll consider between, if the seller states to you, gives you specific instruction that you can do that, to share that secret and that information with others, then that's fine. But we do have a confidentiality obligation to our principals. We're also held accountable to believe fully accountable in a timely manner for all the funds and property we receive. No secret profits. I can't be receiving an extra $100 from a vendor that I work with because maybe I referred a certain inspector and that inspector gives me $50 every single time I refer him business. No secret profits. All the funds need to be accountable. So no secret profits. And then the last one is a reasonable skill, care, and diligence. Like I said, everybody, you guys are all studying real estate to get a real estate license to sell and manage transactions and help the public buy and sell real estate. You are required to have some reasonable skill, care, and diligence. The broker is responsible for all of you guys, but you guys are required to educate yourselves, stay up to date with the current market. And if there is something out of your scope, you should be referring that to the licensed professional. I, as a real estate agent, I don't advise on taxes. I don't advise on permits and construction. I leave those to people who are licensed to do that. That is okay. You don't need to know everything. You need to know real estate. That's what you guys need to know. So old car. Confidentiality, accountability, reasonable scare. That's the CAR acronym. So am I acting fiduciary? So here's the situation. Let's do a little exercise together here. I'm going to read this out loud and you guys tell me, am I acting fiduciary? So the seller told me, right? I'm the agent. So the seller told me he doesn't want to consider any offers from a buyer who has a foreign last name, even if the offer is above asking price. Am I still obligated to present all offers? Ivy says yes. Darlene says yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Maria says yes. I absolutely have to. I need to tell the seller, number one, knock that off. You got to have a stern conversation with your client and let them know that it is illegal to discriminate based upon race, creed, religion, sex, all that type of stuff. But we do have to obey their instructions, but we can't break the law. So I am still obligated, and this will fall under fiduciary duties. Don't break the law, even if they tell you. Here's the situation. So prior to my open house this weekend, the seller sent me an email telling me to mention to any buyers that he is willing to cover some of their closing costs to make a deal. Should I share this information with prospective buyers? Ivy says yes. Ivy's quick about it. She's like typing it already before I even read the answer. She's like, boom. Should I share this information? If my seller says yes, hey, share this information. Hey, tell them we'll give them $10,000 towards their closing costs. That's totally fine. If the seller did not tell me that ahead of time, should I be sharing that with clients? Probably not, because I didn't have specific instructions. Confidentiality. We got to keep that in mind. Keep your conversations private. If they say share it, then go ahead and share it. If they don't, don't. So I showed my buyers property last week. They loved it. We offered list price, but the buyers told me that they will go up another 10,000 if needed. Hey, the listing agent then called me today and asked if my buyers would go up 10,000. Should I let the listing agent know that they'll go up in price without speaking to my buyers first? I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. And the reason why I shouldn't is because they told me that in confidence. They're willing to go up another 10,000. What I should do in this case is, if I was the buyer's agent, I would say, listing agent, I appreciate you sharing that information with me. Let me talk to my client first, and I'll get right back to you. I'd call my client, Carla. Carla, hey, listing agent call me. They want to know if you'll go up $10,000 in price. What do you want me to tell them? Carla says, tell them. Cool, I'll call them back. If Sharon's question is, if the seller is offering to pay some closing costs, should it have to be in writing? Yes, it will be in writing. It will be in writing on the contract or on a counter offer. Absolutely. It does not need to be in writing. Like, are we asking Sharon like permission, like the list that the seller told me, Ben, go ahead and tell them 10,000, give them, offer that up front? Okay, yeah. Should it be in writing? Yeah, it should be in writing. Does it have to be in writing? No, but you're better. Everything should be in writing. You very much should get everything in writing because people have selective memory at times.
Or recorded.
Or recorded, yeah. Hey, Maria, I'm going to record you on this conference. Say that again for me one more time. Give me the permission.
Right.
It's like you're calling a 1-800 like, hey, Carla, thanks for connecting with me here today. By the way, this call is recorded for training purposes. Just want to let you know that. Do I have your permission to continue? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Man, I would love to record all the phone calls. Can't do that, everybody. By the way, don't do that. That's illegal.
Yep.
So confidential. Keep principal's information private unless otherwise agreed in writing. My buyer really liked the house yesterday. They did. However, while we were waiting for them to arrive at the property, the neighbor approached me and started telling me about the history of the house. The neighbor shared with me that 10 years ago that someone had passed away in the home. I asked the listing agent about the death, but she said the current owners have only lived there for 5 years. Should I share this information with my buyers? How do I know this neighbor's not crazy or making up stuff?
Don't we need to find out the facts first instead of?
I asked the listing agent, and the listing agent said, hey, my clients, my people have only been here for 5 years. They don't know about any death.
But isn't there a way to find a record of a death in that home? Like, that's where our research would have to come in. We can't just go around spewing things that could be gossip.
Our research, by the way, it's not our jobs to research this. It is not our jobs to research and go to the library, go to deathrecords.com. I made that website up, by the way. I don't know if what that website is, but who died in my, oh, you know what? I think there is like a who died in my house.com. I vaguely remember that from years ago.
There is a website that'll tell you for like deaths or whatnot that happen and locations.
Those types of things is not our responsibility as real estate agents to do. That is up to the consumer to do. Our job is to say, hey, Maria, just wanted to share some information with you. I can't guarantee this or not. And you know what? I even asked the listing agent and they knew nothing about this, but here's what happened. The nosy neighbor next door, he told me that someone died in a house 10 years ago. I don't know any more details other than that. I couldn't verify it, but I just wanted to let you know. Okay. And if Maria says, hey, I don't want to buy the house anymore, or Maria wants to investigate it further, that's her given right. We still have an obligation to disclose any material facts. We still have an obligation to disclose what we know. If I never heard that from the neighbor, I don't want to say nothing. I don't even know. This situation comes from a real story. This is what happened, and I'll tell it Takes me 30 seconds to tell this story. So I close the sale in Riverside, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, right? I'm about to deliver the keys to my clients. My clients are about to arrive. The neighbor next door is in his garage, comes over. Oh, wow. You guys closed. Great. How much did the house sell for? Oh, wow. Hey, by the way, do your clients know about the child who drowned in the bathroom? I look at the guy like, no, what are you talking about? I have no clue what you're talking about. And so he's just one of those nosy neighbors. My clients show up to the property. I introduce him to the neighbor, and I'm just contemplating in my head, shoot, we closed escrow. There's nothing we can do about it. I know the owners didn't know about it because they're flipping the property. Do I tell my clients that what the neighbors just told me? And I did. And the reason I did is because the last thing I wanted was my clients to call me a week later and say, hey, Ben, I was talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor said that he told you about the child who drowned in the bathtub. Why didn't you tell me about that? What else are you hiding from me? That's just what I did not want to happen. So I just told them straight up what the neighbor told me, and I didn't know nothing about it. We got to share this information with our people. If we know it, we got to disclose it. Disclose. Last one. I have the best mortgage lender. He pays for half of my Zillow subscription. He always invites me when he has a suite at the Lakers game or a party on his boat. He prints all my flyers. He prints all my postcards. He doesn't always have the best interest rates or lowest fees, but he has a proven track history and provides the best service. I always encourage my clients to work with him, but I always provide the client with alternative options as well. Am I acting in the client's best interest, even though he doesn't always have the lowest fees and best interest rates? Am I acting in my client's best interest? Eugene says yes. Yes. I'm a firm believer. You get what you pay for. I'm not the cheapest, personally. I'm not the cheapest. I do a darn good job though. I make it look easy when we're representing a seller. I take a lot of the stress. I believe my worth. Now, if I was getting kickbacks, if I was getting an extra $500 every time I sent this mortgage lender a loan, that would be deemed illegal. The fact that he pays for half of my Zillow subscription, that's no problem with that. It benefits him as well too, because if I get a client from Zillow, who's going to be the lender? He is. It benefits him. He's investing in me so that I can invest in leads. The fact that he invites me to the Laker game or a party on his boat, we're friends. Like, he's not like paying me on the side. He's just inviting me because that's what lenders and other vendors do to us real estate agents, is that they want to earn our business. They want to be friends with us so that we can send them business too. That is absolutely okay. He prints all my flyers and postcards because if I get business, I'm going to send him the business. He needs me. I need him. We work together as a team. We may both not be the same brokerage or industry, but I know you guys rely on vendor partners that you guys trust as well too. By providing alternative options, that's the best way to keep yourself out of trouble, is provide 2 options. This person's good at this. This person's good at this. Okay, this is me, by the way. Just let you guys know. This is me and my lender. He's also not really the best, like, charismatic, like, outgoing person. If my client is super charismatic and outgoing, like, they may not like him because he's kind of dry. But if my client is analytical and straight to the point, like, all day long, he's gonna be the one because he gets straight to the point. So it just depends, but provide options. Loyalty. Put their best interests at heart. Hey, this person's really good. Fees are slightly higher, but they have a higher probability of getting this done on time and as less stress as possible. Old car: obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, reasonable skill, care, and diligence. So don't forget, we as agents have our principal, right? We have our client that we're representing. We still owe the other party the same duty as well. So if I am representing Carla, Carla's my seller, right? Carla is my seller in this transaction, and Rudy is representing the buyer in this transaction. I still owe them a certain level of responsibilities too. I still owe Rudy and his client disclosure material facts, reasonable skill, fair dealing, and good faith. We still owe that to the other party that we're doing business with. It may not be the whole old car acronym, but we still owe them these attributes of the third party. Fiduciary disclosure, the legal obligation of a real estate agent or broker to disclose all relevant material information to their clients in a real estate transaction. Yes, we have a fiduciary disclosure. We have a requirement to disclose certain things about the transaction. For example, one, dual agency. If I am representing the seller, and if I will be representing the buyer as well too, should I tell all parties about that? Yes, absolutely. And that is when an agent is representing both parties, both buyer and seller in transaction. Why do you think, actually, let me ask you guys this question. Do you guys want to represent both buyer and seller in a transaction? Darlene says Mo. Mo money, Mo problems. I'm just kidding. No. Darlene says no. I know a lot of agents that are like, hell no, I'm not representing both sides. I know some agents that are like, that's my goal every single time. What is one advantage? What is one advantage of representing both buyer and seller in a transaction? What is one advantage? That's it. Eugene says more money. Yeah, you're representing both sides. You get both sides of the commission. You're doing two jobs. You also have double the responsibility. More profit for yourself, more income for yourself. So you're representing both buyer and seller. But just know, if you are representing both sides, if anything ever goes wrong in that deal, you're done for, by the way, because you are representing both sides. It's hard to represent both sides because you owe the same obligation for both. And in some states, they don't even allow this. Alaska, Colorado, Florida, Kansas, Maryland, Texas, Wyoming, and Vermont. Actually, they don't allow it. It's legal in California, though. And Ivy trusts herself. I actually don't disagree with that. You know, if you are representing both buyer and seller, you know what's really going on in the transaction on both sides. You don't have to deal with another agent. Felipe says speed. Sure, I guess it can be a little bit quicker because you have full control. I like it. But in dual agency situations, all parties need to have this in writing stating that they are aware that the agent is representing both parties. That's what you need to know. What you also need to know is acting as principal or other interests. If you are representing somebody who is a blood, marital, or other relations of significance, which would suggest a reasonable possibility that the agent could indirectly acquire the property, you do need to disclose it. If I'm representing my mom in the purchase or a sale of a property, I need to disclose that agent is related to principal. If I am representing my wife's cousin's friend's sister's baby daddy's cousin's barber, that's a little farther down the line. I really don't need to mention that. If it's my third cousin, I don't really think I need to represent that either. But if there's a chance that you, the agent, could inherit that property, you do need to disclose it. And when in doubt, just disclose it. Agent related to buyer, agent related to seller. You'll be fine with that. An agent who buy and sell for their own account. If you are representing yourself, you do need to disclose that. You do need to disclose whether you're an active real estate agent. Maybe you're a real estate agent like my cousin who has had his license for like 10 years, but never actually done anything with his license. But if I were to represent my cousin in the purchase or sale of a property, I would need to disclose, number one, agent related to principal. Principal is a licensed California real estate holds a licensed California real estate license. I would need to state that. So if I am buying a property, I do need to state that I am representing myself and a licensed California real estate broker. So if you are representing yourself, a family member, representing both parties, make sure you guys disclose this. If not, you guys are going to end up on my violators list, and we're going to poke fun at you on Wednesday mornings once a month. That's what's going to happen. Let's talk misrepresentation of material facts. An untrue statement made by a broker to influence the outcome of a sale. These are all no-nos, everybody. These are no good. You don't want to be caught with this because these are not, these could result in fines, loss of bad reputation. But sometimes these are also, mistakes. There's 3 types that you should circle, star, heart, that you should just know in the back of your heads: innocent, negligent, and fraudulent. These are 3 different types of misrepresentation. These are 3 terminology that you want to know for your exam as well. Let's discuss the first one, is innocent. This was an honest mistake. This is an honest mistake. This is a false statement made by a party in a contract or negotiation without intention to deceive or defraud. This is like saying the square footage is 1575 of my home because that's what the public record says. The agent says it's 1575. Eugene says it's 1575. Carla says it's 1575. But maybe they get someone out there to measure it and it's 1400. Honest mistake. They didn't know. Did not intentionally mean to do it. This is an honest mistake. That's innocent misrepresentation. This one is the most common right here. Negligent misrepresentation. This is like Carla walks into an open house and me, the agent, says, "Oh, Carla, this is a great area because it's in the ABC school district." And I don't even know if it's in the ABC school district. I just know ABC, Artesia, Bellflower, Cerritos. I just know it's in the city of Cerritos. So I just say, "Oh yeah, Carla, it's a great school district, ABC." But if I didn't actually verify that myself, it could be deemed as negligent misrepresentation because I did not verify it myself. I didn't exercise due diligence in confirming said fact. Or maybe I said, "Oh yeah, that patio is permitted." Yeah, without actually checking myself. But the seller told me it was permitted. But I didn't verify it myself. I could be deemed as negligent in that situation. Innocent, made a mistake. Negligent, you just didn't do your due diligence. And the last one is fraudulent. Yeah, straight up fraud. Fraudulent misrepresentation. We all know that's a no-no. Don't do it. I always tell everybody, if it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. "Hey, Ben, if I really don't want to tell my client this because I'm afraid they're going to cancel, should I just not share that information?" You just answered your own question. If it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. So don't do it. Innocent, negligent, fraudulent. All right, so let's look at this question here. This question is, which one of the options below would result in a dual agency scenario? Dual agency. The answer is 2 agents working under a broker representing both buyer and seller in the same transaction. Dual agency. Just because 2 agents are representing, one is representing buyer and one is representing seller, if you both are at the same brokerage, it is a dual agency. You still need to disclose that both agents are representing the same company. Representing the same people? Yes, very much. But these answers will not be. 2 brokers have listings on the same property. That could happen. That could happen with certain types of listing agreements, not common, but that also was not the question. The question was, which of the best results in dual agency scenario? So that's why the answer is not A. The listing broker is cooperating with a selling broker. That is how most transactions are. Listing broker represents the seller, selling broker represents the buyer. That's how most transactions are, and that's why that's not the answer. Broker has 2 simultaneous, I can't even say that word, simultaneous escrows on the same property. That is a no-no. can't have two escrows on the same property because that means you're selling it to two different buyers. I didn't share that story with you. I'll share it with you next time, but one of those agents that I had on my screen at the beginning there was fined like $2,500 because he had technically two escrows open on the same property. Two agents working on the same broker representing both buyer and seller in same transaction. That would be the answer. In this scenario, a seller listed a home for $650,000, which a broker who advises a potential buyer to make an offer lower due to the seller's desperation to sell. The buyer offers $600,000, which the seller agrees to. What is the outcome of the situation? The outcome is the broker violated his agency relationship with the seller because the broker, the listing broker, has a level of confidentiality. The seller expressed like, "Oh, I'm really desperate, but I'll take 600,000." Like, you can't, unless told by the principal, you can't just go telling everybody, "Hey, seller's desperate. If you offer this, you're probably going to accept it." Now you probably hear this all the time, like the seller's motivated. Motivated means nothing. Motivated doesn't mean desperate. The wrong answers. If you notice these texts, the text is a little smaller. It's because I spent a little bit more time writing these out to explain why. So on your guys' handout, you guys got the full explanation, so you guys can read that later. But I would advise you guys to go back later and just read what I wrote at the bottom, because part of your exam is going to be you going through and fishing out which ones are not the right answers. And a lot of the times you're going to come across a question on your state exam and you're going to go, "I have no clue what this answer is." Skip it. Just, you have a whiteboard with you. Just write down the number, the question, and you can go back to it later. And then you can slow yourself down, read all the answers. You'll be able to get rid of one of them automatically. Now you have three choices to choose from. From those three, you should be able to get rid of one more as long as you know halfway the content. Then you got a 50% chance of getting it right. An agent who obtained a listing for a house and made an oral commitment to hold a weekly open house until the property is sold, despite knowing that it was impractical to promise. The agent ended up organizing only 2 open houses within the 100-day listing period. What type of situation does this represent? The key part of this question is this: despite knowing that it was impractical, that it was an impractical promise to keep. This is actual fraud. Because the agent knew that they will not be able to actually hold that open because it was impractical to do that, this is known as actual fraud. Let's go laws of agency. Agency agreements, law of agency, generals. Need to fix that. Agency agreements, we'll fix that there. So agency, what is agency? Agency is the authority to act in place of another, a principal to do a specified act for a stated period of time. That is what we do as agents. We have a fiduciary duty and obligation to people, but we have agency with working with our clients. They are hiring us to do a certain thing, such as sell a property, such as help me find a place to purchase, such as help me find a place to rent, such as find a tenant for my property. We discussed principal. Remember, principal is the person who hires. So I'm going to use Carla as this example. Carla, you are going to hire me to sell your house. You are the principal. I am your agent. I owe Carla, the seller, a fiduciary duty. Old car, remember the acronym, right? So I'm going to sell her property, list her property for sale. There is a third party involved in this, and that's Eugene. Eugene, you're at the top of my screen right next to me. So you have an easy name to say. I can see your face. So I'm going to use you for this example. Thank you. Eugene is the third party. Eugene is the other person in a contractual negotiation other than the principal and their client. This here is me. Principal is Carla. Third party, the customer, the buyer, that's Eugene. And a lot of the times, Eugene has an agent, and we're going to say that agent is Rudy. Rudy is the agent. This is the one who acts for and with authority. Rudy right here, the buyer's agent, has a fiduciary duty to this person, the third party, which is Eugene. And I tried to draw this chart to kind of just draw a visual of what the situation looks like. We're all connected somehow. Seller, seller's agent, buyer, buyer's agent. We're all connected. We all owe each other honest and fair dealing. We all have to disclose facts. We all need to be upfront and communicate with no secret profits. That is our agency. Carla hired me. Eugene hired Rudy. Myself and Rudy, the agents, we're professionals working together to bring our clients to a meeting of the mind. The thing about agency and the laws of agency, this does not require compensation. Compensation is by far the biggest thing for your exam. I almost guarantee you're going to get a question that's going to state like, what is one of the things that is not a requirement of agency? And it's going to be compensation. Compensation is not a requirement for representing someone else at all. I could represent my mom in the purchase of a property, and I could do it for free if I wanted to. It does not require compensation. That is not a requirement of representing someone else. That's a star, heart, circle, however you got to remember that, but you got to know that one. So the three responsibilities of agency, again, disclose all material facts pertaining to the property. Again, no secret profit. Agents cannot gain money without the principal's consent. And number three, the agent cannot use the property for his or her own advantage. Yes, Darlene. Thank you for using the raised hand feature, Darlene. Oh, it's gone.
No, sorry, I was struggling getting unmuted.
Oh.
So in this event where, like you said, you were representing your mom, so obviously you're not going to charge your mom for your services, correct? So I'm assuming that all the same rules apply where you have to let the agent of the buyer know that you are representing your mother, that you're related to the person who is either selling or purchasing as well. And does that have to be stipulated in the documents also?
It does, yes.
Even if you're not being compensated for it?
Even if I'm not being compensated for it. And I'm still charging my mom, by the way. I tried. She was like, no, boy, you're good. And by the way, when you represent someone buying a piece of property anyways, buyer doesn't pay the commission anyway. It comes from the seller. Now, if my mom was selling her house, would I charge her a lesser commission? Yes, I would charge her a lesser commission. The brokerage still charges it regardless. Yeah, because there's still legal liability involved, so we still charge. But to answer your question, yes, we would still, even if there's no compensation involved, if I am representing someone else, regardless of compensation, and I am related to said person, I still need to disclose that in writing. In real estate, this is the main document that we use. This is called the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. In your guys' handout, there is a link that would take you to this 2-page document. And I know the text is really small, sorry, but I would take a moment, read that a little bit later, but you're going to see in this section here, buyer, seller, landlord, and tenant. That is for the client to elect. Who are they? Are you the buyer? Are you the landlord? Are you the seller? Are you the tenant? You choose a box and you sign your name. Me, the agent, or your agent, will disclose the brokerage, the license numbers, and their names. This is the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. And this became law in 1988. And this is the civil code that just states that we have to disclose in writing who we are representing in a transaction. When I took my broker test, I don't know, years ago, there was a question that said, what are the steps to disclosing agency? Is it confirm, elect, disclose? Is it elect, confirm, disclose? It was something else. I just know it's disclose, elect, and confirm. It's DEC. DEC. You disclose by presenting this form. The consumer elects, and then they confirm it by signing. I need to emphasize this acronym a little bit more. DEC. Disclose, elect, confirm. Disclose, elect, confirm. Disclose, elect, confirm. Carla, what is it? Without looking at the screen.
Oh, wait, I wasn't listening because I was typing.
Wow, never mind. It's cool.
Sorry.
It's cool. Carla's working at the same time, so it's all right. All right. Disclose, elect, confirm. Disclosure, agency relationship. It's a really boring form, and no one ever reads it. And it takes me 15 seconds to explain before people sign it. But yeah, take a moment and actually go through this. And this is signed anytime you're making an offer, signing a listing agreement. If anybody's bought a property here in the last like 14 years, you sign this. I guarantee you. Absolutely guarantee you. You don't even know if you signed it, but you signed it. This is attached to every offer that I make on behalf for a client. It's signed for every landlord, tenant agreement, and listing agreement. This is, and that's a fixture. This is a staple in all contracts. Let's talk power of attorney. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard power of attorney. You guys might have power of attorney over somebody else. It's just somebody representing somebody else, given authority in writing to represent somebody else in an act, legally act. You're giving me power of attorney to manage your bank account. You're giving me power of attorney to sell your house. I had a seller who lived in India, good friend of mine. He gave power of attorney to his uncle to handle the transaction, the sale of his house here in Cerritos. He was in India the whole time. He didn't want to do this whole U.S. consulate, back and forth time zone things. He provided a power of attorney to his uncle here, and I just communicated with the uncle the whole time. And the uncle signed everything on behalf of his nephew who lived in India, and power of attorneys work. When it comes to power of attorney, we want to know general and special. General agent, who is authorized to conduct a series, multiple things. Special is to appoint and carry out a single act, one single act. In the example I just told you about the uncle and the nephew in the India, he was a special agent. He had a power of attorney to do one act, which was sell the property. That's what he had the authority to do. General, multiple, special, one. However, you got to remember that. In a scenario where a real estate agent licensee has a buyer agency agreement, what role does the seller play? See, the example I gave you guys earlier was with the listing agent and the seller. Like, just flip that around. The other party is the customer. The other party in a scenario where the real estate licensee has a buyer agency agreement. So this is the buyer and the buyer's agent. The other party in this transaction is the seller, right? So buyer and buyer agency, their buyer's agent. The other party to that transaction is the seller and the seller's agent. That other party is known as the customer. It's kind of weird terminology, right? It's like, why are they the customer? Well, and that's why I try to draw that chart to help give you a visual. Just know the other party is a customer. They're the third party. Let's go agency relationships. There's three different types. There is the express, implied, and agency by estoppel. So the first one is express. Express can be created in writing or orally. This one here is express orally or in writing. You can express this in writing by signing this. That is a way to express that there is an agency relationship between me, the agent, and you, the client. You can also express this in words. I say to Carla, I look forward to working with you as your real estate agent. Or let me rephrase that. Let me do this better. Carla says, Ben, tell me you look forward to working with me.
Ben, I look forward to working with you.
Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with you and finding you a new home. We have just verbally expressed that we're going to be working with each other. The same thing. That is express. Implied, created by actions. This is not expressed in writing. I gave you a really, really long explanation here. Carla, let's use Carla again as an example. Carla is first selling her property, doesn't want to list their house with an agent, but tells agents, hey, if you bring a client, I'll pay you commission. So maybe Carla's selling her property. Me, the agent, I reach out to Jessica, and Jessica said, and I say, Jessica, I have this property. Do you want to buy it? And I start negotiating this deal on their behalf. I start negotiating a deal to help Jessica buy the property from the owner, Carla. I'm implying that I am representing Carla, saying, hey, I have a deal for you, and I'm trying to bring them together to make a sale, but I don't have any written agreement with the owner. It's one way. That is an implied. Ostensible, also known as ostensible. Estoppel, ostensible. Stated. When's the last time you used the word ostensible, Carla? Also known as appearing to be true but not true. This is when a person makes a representation of a third party, whether by words or conduct, that the person is their agent. So easiest way to give an example for this one is Andy is Oscar's agent. Oscar terminates the relationship, but unbeknownst to him, Andy continues to transact with third parties on his behalf. So Carla, you fired me. You don't want me as your agent anymore. That's cool. So Carla legally fires me as her agent, but I'm still out there talking to people being like, hey, I have a client who wants to buy your property, and I'm still representing as if she is still working with me. So maybe Diana, Diana's a seller, and Diana says, yeah, bring your buyer. I reach out to Carla and I say, Carla, I got this client, and I got this property. I think this is going to work for you. So if I hook them up together and they make a sale, well, Diana didn't know that Carla fired me. I was still representing Carla as if we were still working together. This is where it's kind of like when a third party believes there is an agent. Believes is the key part. When you're not expressing it in writing. I didn't have to tell Diana, Carla fired me a few weeks back, but I'm still trying to find a property for her. That would be expressing it. If Diana just thinks that I'm working with Carla, like that is agency by estoppel.
Darlene has a question.
Darlene, isn't that illegal? Carla, I can read. So I am still out there representing Carla, even though Carla said, leave me alone, Ben. Could I still do that? I could. And if I reach out to Diane and Diane's like, bring that buyer. And then I call Carla, hey, I got this property for you. And then Carla can easily say, Ben, we're not working with each other anymore. No, thanks. And that's it. Are you also considered dual agency? Yes, I would be considered dual agency. Now, what would make that illegal though? Hey, Diana, I have this client. We're still under contract. I don't want to be lying to her, saying that we still have a written agreement. I am just expressing and implying that we are still working together, that I have a client, and that Carla might still be interested. So it would not be illegal. It wouldn't be. But Carla also doesn't have to transact with me at all because we have no written agreement. Agency by estoppel. Ostensible. Both same thing. Ratification. Oops. Ratification. Suppose a real estate agent without authorization and without ever speaking to the seller negotiates a deal for a house that is for sale by the seller. One day the agent arrives with a completed contract, simply waiting for the seller's signature and acceptance of the deal. Let's do an example. Eugene, you're selling your house. Eugene says to Ben, me and Eugene go way back. Eugene says, hey, Ben, if you can bring an offer for like $600,000, I think I'll sell. So we have no written agreement. I'm out there, I'm talking to another friend, and my friend Carmen's like, I'm looking for to buy a house. And I say, hey, Carmen, I got a friend who wants to buy a house, like said 600,000, and he'll sell it. Carmen wants to buy it. Maybe I draft the contract. I go to Eugene's house. Hey, Eugene, I got this buyer, Carmen. She wants to buy the property. I got the paperwork all ready to go. We already made the deal. Just need to sign it. The act of ratification is him actually signing the piece of paper. This is when the principal approves or adopts an act that has already been done in his name. I already negotiated on behalf of Eugene, made the deal. Now I just need to get it in paper and signing. That is ratification. The key word for this one is ratification, which is just the act of signing. What is not a crucial requirement for establishing an agency relationship among the following options? Which is not? The answer is agreement to pay consideration. It's always these not questions, which is not. Consent, competency, fiduciary relationship. Those are all like requirements of relationships working together. Which one is not? An agreement to pay consideration, compensation. Which one is not? What is an instance of ostensible agency? Ostensible, estoppel. The principal allows a licensee to act as a listing broker in front of the prospective buyer. This is the one where it's when a third party believes there is an agency. They believe that the principal allows a licensee to act as a listing broker in front of the prospective buyer. The prospective buyer believes that the listing broker and the agent are working together. Let's jump into agency disclosure law. Listing broker and selling broker must declare in writing as soon as possible who they represent. And the way that we disclose that is by using that disclosure regarding agency form, the one that shows that they have to indicate if it's a buyer or a seller or a tenant or a landlord. They got to indicate it using that form. Some few quick terminology. We have the listing agent. That's the person representing the seller. And this is the one that confuses everybody, is the selling agent. They are the buyer's agent. But wait, isn't the listing agent selling the property? No, they're listing the property. The buyer's agent is known as the selling agent. In the real estate contracts, it's just what it is. Selling contract, selling agent is the buyer's agent, the person buying the property. The listing agent is the one representing the seller. They're the one listing the home for sale. Well, let's discuss some examples of agency agreements. I love listing agreements. Love them with a passion, because it means that I have been hired to sell someone's property. That is what a listing agreement is. It is an employment contract to hire a real estate broker to facilitate the sale of a principal's property. There's three types, and this one's important. There's three types of agreements. And let's use Michelle. Michelle is an example. So Michelle is going to hire me, Ben Gomez, Nationwide Real Estate Executives, broker for Nationwide Real Estate Executives, to sell her property. We are going to do what we call an exclusive authorization and right to sell listing. This is the most common. Our brokerage, this is the only one that we accept. This is the only listing agreement that we accept. Most common. And this one means a commission is owed regardless of who procures the buyer, even the seller. So in this case, if Michelle says, hey, Ben, I'm hiring you to sell my property. Oh, by the way, Ben, my sister wants to buy the property. You still owe the full commission. Because it doesn't matter who procures the buyer. It doesn't matter who finds the buyer. I'm still owed a commission to facilitate the sale. That is exclusive authorization and right to sell listing. Same example. Let's use the same exact example, but this one is exclusive agency. Exclusive agency, listing seller reserve agency. This listing agreement here reserves the seller's right to not pay a commission if the seller procures her own buyer. So using the same example, Michelle's sister. So I take this listing. Michelle hires me to sell her property, but instead we do an exclusive agency. And the exclusive agency here is, well, if I find the buyer, if Michelle brings the buyer, a commission will not be owed. If the seller finds a buyer for the property, no commission will be owed to the broker. I don't like this one. I don't know. Would you guys want to work your butts off doing a bunch of open houses, telephone prospecting, spend a bunch of money on marketing and materials to not be compensated? Now, there are companies out there that will do this, but we just don't do this. Small difference. Exclusive authorization, commission is owed. Exclusive agency, if the seller finds the buyer, it's not. Slight difference. I don't think you wrote confusing on that one there. Is it let's discuss that one just a little bit there. Is it the commission part that's confusing?
It was the one before when you were discussing like the agents and the seller's agent is it was the buyer's agent that's called one thing and then the seller's agent called the seller's agent. Yeah, this one.
I know this one is like, it's like, wait, there's nowhere where
Like it should be different because you're saying like the listing agent represents the seller. But in my mind, I'm like, wouldn't that be the selling agent? And so I can't reconcile this in my head right now.
let it marinate for a little bit. I know exactly what you mean because I get it all the time, and I get it probably a couple times a week with my active agents. Wait, aren't I the selling agent? I'm like, no, you are the listing agent because you're listing it. Like, I totally get it. However, you got to like write this out. Selling agent is the buyer. You are the one selling that property. The listing agent represents the owner. Maybe if you just change seller to owner, property owner, that might help it a little bit. But yeah, this chart here, listing agent is listing the property, selling agent is buyer's agent.
So if they're both listing, okay, so then if you have like the listing agent that's listing the property for the seller, correct?
Correct.
Aren't you also helping that seller to sell that property?
Yeah, the action is selling the property.
Oh, I get it. Okay, so the same person can be both. When you're listing the property, you're considered the listing agent, but once you actually go through the process of selling the property, then you become the seller's agent.
If you're representing the seller in that situation
Correct.
too. Yeah.
Okay, so I can only be like a listing agent and then someone else can be a selling agent, is what you're
That
saying.
is correct. Yes.
Okay, but if I was doing both, then my title would change depending on where I am along the process.
Correct. It would be both.
Okay, I think I got it now. Thanks.
Cool. That's cool. We got lots of time to circle back to that. All good though. Let's go. And yes, Diana wrote, a lot of questions are written to confuse you. Absolutely. That's where the vocabulary and terminology play a huge factor. But I assure you, you guys got lots of time on your exam to read, review, take your time. And the last one is an open listing, everybody. Open listing. This is where the seller may list with multiple brokers. The first broker to bring them an offer and they accept earns the commission. So Carla's the seller and she does an open listing with everybody on this call. Whoever brings that first buyer shall pay a commission. What if Carla finds the buyer herself? Does she owe a commission? Carla, you got 34 brokers here, all trying to sell your property. If you find the buyer, do you owe any of us a commission? That is correct. No, you don't. You pay the commission no matter what. If the seller finds the buyer, you pay no commission. One who brings me the first will get the commission. Is open listing common? No, because none of us would want to work under these circumstances. So I have no desire to work with that seller. And I wouldn't advise any of my agents to work with that seller. However, these sellers are out there. You can almost consider for sale by owners as open listings, kind of, sort of. You know, a lot of for sale by owners obviously don't want to hire real estate agents because they don't want to pay the commissions. So even if you brought that for sale by owner or buyer, you're still going to have to negotiate your commission in there. You know, so that's kind of sort of best example, but not there is not a lot of open listings. Again, if I even had an example to show you guys on the screen, I would show you, but I don't have one. Two more listing agreements. So these can be added to any of these three. Okay. So these two options, net listing and option listing, can be added to any of these three listings. So let me show you what I mean. So a net listing is a negotiation threshold. It works like this. Carla says, Ben, sell my property. I have to walk away with $500,000 regardless. Carla basically says to me, hey, anything over $500,000 you keep. So if I were to sell that property for $501,000, if her net profit was $501,000, what is my commission, Carla?
100,000.
1,000. If the profit is 600,000, remember Carla only needed 500. What is my commission then? 600,000. You only wanted 500,000.
You want me to answer, or are you asking?
No, I'm asking you. Yeah,
100,000.
100,000. Perfect. I was like, man, is she really struggling with that math?
No,
I'm just
no, no.
kidding.
I was giving some other people a chance. See, Eugene put it in. I put it in.
There you do. Yeah. So that is a net listing. This isn't super common either. This is if you can get me at least X amount of dollars, anything over that you keep, that is a net listing. That's what that is. An option listing is like this. Broker B agrees to buy the property from the seller for $500,000 if the home doesn't sell in 90 days. The starting list price will be $600,000. If you guys have ever seen the bus bench ads or any marketing that says guaranteed to sell your home or we'll buy it, it's usually because they already write a certain amount. Carla, I'm going to sell your home, right? And you know what? If I can't sell your home for $600,000 in 90 days, I will agree to buy your property from you for $500,000. Maybe they agree to that. That is an option. The option to buy the property at a predetermined price. Not that common either. Really not that common. Usually used for marketing purposes. This guaranteed to sell your home or we'll buy it statements used for marketing purposes, but not common. And buyers. Buyers also have agreements when working with buyers. They have something called the buyer's representation agreement. If Brandon is going to be buying a property, and I'm going to be representing him in the purchase, we put together an agreement that just says, hey, I'm representing you as your buyer's agent. And I am, it's going to be for X amount of time. And we're going to look in X amount of areas. One of the stories that I gave you at the beginning here, oh no, I didn't share that story. Never mind. Forget what I just said. Buyer's agreements. Just like you have a seller's listing agreement with the seller, you have a agreement with the buyer. And there's lots of ways that a relationship can be terminated. And these are the ways that agency relationships can be terminated. Number one is close of escrow. If you are representing somebody, sell a piece of property, once you close escrow, your job is done. Your agency is terminated. Another way it can terminate is expiration. If you hired me, Carla, to sell your property and our agreement ended on March 31st, as of today, April 1st, our agency has expired. We are no longer an agency anymore because our time frame has expired. If you hired me to sell your property and for some crazy reason, the destruction of the property happened, well, we don't have agency anymore because there's no property to discuss. Carla, we had an agreement, but you passed away. Well, there's no other party anymore, so that agency is now terminated. Bankruptcy. Bankruptcy could also terminate this agreement. That one's gonna supersede. What's the word I'm looking for? It overrides it. An agreement by both. Remember, we're talking about terminating our agency relationships. What if the trust is what if there's a trust for the seller? And what if the trust fires me and just says it doesn't want to work with me? If there's a trust for a seller, it doesn't really make any difference other than what we're discussing here, because the trust is acting as the seller. Unless you want to elaborate a little bit more.
No, I was just wondering if you were in the process of selling and, the person obviously wanted to sell this. You already kind of bought a buyer, but before everything is finalized, the person wanted to pass away. But they have a trust or something, in place. Would that deal still just fall apart, or could this person, or if the person was acting in the best interest of their trust and was selling a property out of their trust, would everything fall apart at that point in time, or would you still be able to consider going through because the trust still is alive and active?
What's nice about the trust is that the trust isn't going to die. The trust is going to be, and so that particular situation, the seller wouldn't be selling. The seller would actually be the trust itself. And if the trustee died, the trust is going to state who's next falling in line, making on the decision on behalf of the trust.
Okay.
So in this case, the sale would still continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Renouncement of listing by the broker. So maybe, Carla, I don't want to sell your place anymore. See ya. And revocation of the listing by the seller. Still, so this is if the seller wants to cancel the transaction. So these are different ways that the termination of an agency relationship could occur. This is a little bit longer one, so I'll just explain this one here. So Kelly hires agent Oscar to help her sell the house. Kelly signed an exclusive agency. Remember, agency is the one that does not, if the seller brings the buyer, there's no commission owed. Kelly was talking to a friend about buying a house long before she met Oscar. And after Kelly signed the listing agreement, Kelly's friend bought the house. What commission is Oscar entitled to? Because Kelly procured the buyer, brought the buyer, no commission is owed. No commission. That's exclusive agency. Remember, the one that you get paid on regardless is the right to sell. Agency, if the seller finds it, you're not owed a commission. What kind of listing agreement permits a property owner to designate an exclusive agent to sell the property, but still permits them to sell the property themselves without paying any commission? Just another reworded question where the answer is exclusive agency. You still have an agent trying to market your property, but you still reserve that right to pay no commission if you bring the buyer. That is exclusive agency. I specifically put both of these questions in here to kind of just emphasize exclusive agency. So definitely take the time to review those ones a little bit later. 2 more sections, 10 more minutes. Independent contractors. By the way, we are all independent contractors. Real estate agents are independent contractors. When you sign up for DoorDash, Uber Eats, Uber, you're independent contractors. When you're a real estate agent, you sell on results rather than time. A W-2 employee receives an hourly wage, receives a salary, has taxes taken out. Independent contractors are different. We sell final results rather than time. We set our own hours. We're not under those employment laws. In California, any person representing someone else for compensation, you must have your Department of Real Estate license. And that's what you guys are all here. You guys want to get your real estate license so that you can what? Make money? That's what you guys are here for, right? But you are an independent contractor. That's how you have to view yourself. Anytime that you are receiving compensation, that is the catalyst to where a license is needed. If you, Eugene, want to go help your friends and family buy and sell real estate, go for it. As long as you're not getting compensation, you don't need a license for that. Each agent, licensed real estate salesperson with their broker must have a written broker associate contract. You guys all, like, as soon as you pass your exams, like you actually can't go out there marketing and selling right away. You actually need to be under a broker. You need to be under the supervision of a brokerage, a real estate broker. The key thing to know here is 3 years. You're going to notice a lot of our contracts, a lot of the time frames that we are required to keep stuff on record is for 3 years. We must retain a copy of our employment contract for at least 3 years, even after you leave. The DRE requires notification. You know, if someone changes, if Carla leaves or John goes to a different brokerage and they switch brokerages, like, you have to notify the Department of Real Estate. And you guys can look all of this up on the Department of Real Estate website and see when someone's license expired, what brokers they're with, what brokers they used to be with. You can look at all the agents under a particular broker. DRE requires all this notification. And by the way, the brokers handle all this for you. Transaction file. Actually, I'm going to go back one slide here. So think about a transaction, someone who buys or sells, right? Let's imagine, actually, I'm going to throw this question out. Carla, question. Here's the scenario. You just bought a piece of property like last year.
Yes, yes.
How long do you think the broker is required to maintain copies of that paperwork for that transaction? How many years do you think we have to hold on to that paperwork?
3 years.
That is correct. 3 years. You also see at the bottom here, text messages, electronic storage is allowed. Yes, there was at one time 12 years ago when nationwide real estate executives, we had filing cabinets of paperwork. We got rid of all that because we can keep that in the cloud. We don't need physical copies. We can print all of it when needed. Text messages, instant messages, tweets, all that. We should be keeping log of all that stuff. That's why I don't delete any of my messages, because of this. We should always keep record of it. Don't be cheap. Pay the extra $20 for 4 terabytes of storage on your Google Drives, everybody. You want to keep record of all of it. Commission. Yes, that's why we're here. The broker wants commission. That's how we stay in business. As it says here, must clearly set forth in an agreement, usually a percentage of the selling price. Yes, our agreements need to state what the compensation is. And that's why we are in business, is because we want commission. It's not a secret. The other thing I want to bring up is what we call a protection clause or safety clause. There are clauses in our agreements that will protect us as real estate brokers. Best example here is the standard 3% commission. That depends. Standard is 3%, but depending on the market, that could fluctuate. I would say 2 to 2.5 is the more common today. 3%, offer 5%. You'll get all the agents wanting to show and sell your property. More compensation. Don't we work on commission? If you guys saw a 10% commission, would you guys be like, I need to find a buyer for that property? You guys are all greedy. Of course you would. I would. I get paid more to do the same job. But if you saw a listing and you're representing the buyer and they're only going to pay you $100, you don't really want to show that and sell that property, do you? Commission standard 2 to 2.5 is more standard today in today's market. The protection period safety clause works like this. Eugene, you hired me to sell your property and I didn't sell it. On March 31st, our listing contract expired. But last week, Rudy wrote an offer on your property that you didn't accept. Let me say that one more time. Eugene wanted me to sell his property, but our contract expired yesterday. But Rudy wrote an offer last week that Eugene, you didn't accept. Well, our contracts have a protection clause, whereas what that means is maybe Eugene contacts Rudy directly and says, hey, Rudy, you wrote an offer on my property last week. I didn't accept it, but now I don't have to pay the agent. So, hey, let's do the deal, me and you. Like if I find out, like I could still go after the commission because that buyer was procured during our contract time. That is a protection period safety clause. Yeah, we had to deal with that like years ago. We got our commission, by the way. That's exactly what happened, by the way. The seller did not accept the client's offer, and then the client, some way or another, knew each other, and then they made the deal outside of without the agent, and we still got paid. While finishing his real estate license classes, Andy assisted his neighbor in selling their house and agreed to a 5% commission. Andy found a buyer, and the sale was completed just 2 days after he received his license. However, the neighbor is now refusing to pay the commission they previously agreed upon. Is Andy able to take legal action? No, Andy, you weren't licensed at the time. While finishing his real estate license classes, Andy assisted. Andy at that time wasn't licensed. Like he has no claim to it. Although he got his license and then it closed, you are not owed commission unless you are licensed. And at that time, the buyer was procured prior to Andy's license. No commission is owed. Nice job though, Andy. It's like you were an intern for a little bit of period of time. Does Phyllis require a real estate license to sell her own house? Nope. Phyllis is the owner of this house. Does Phyllis require a real estate license to sell her own house? She's not selling it. She's not selling it for compensation. She's selling it because she's an owner. She owns her property. She can sell it. You guys can all do this to your own houses too. She does not need a license. Just like you can all do your own taxes too. And say you're going to be any good at it. You can all sell your own house. Not saying you're going to be any good at it or get the right exposure. But you could if you wanted to. You can also do your own mechanic work. You can also do your own contracting work. But you guys are awesome. If you guys have any additional questions, by all means, shout them out.